it looks like Democrats and Republicans, at least for some, it looks like there may be common ground that they find. I don't know on what. I mean, at least this is what Lindsey Graham is suggesting. The proposal to increase the age of purchase is nonsensical. And it's nonsensical for a big reason. And that reason is evil doesn't have an age. So everyone's been discussing, the potential of raising the age of purchase to 21 or raising it even to 25. And then some Republicans are like, okay, well, if we raise the age to vote then too, if we just have age, voting, drinking, and purchasing guns all at the same age, there you go. So I guess we're going to arbitrarily define what is or is an adult. Evil, as I said, doesn't have an age. And age isn't the problem. These are people who chose to do evil things because they're evil people. I'm not going to say any of their names, but the Las Vegas killer was 64 years old. That was the worst mass casualty incident in our country's history. That's significant, correct? If we're going to talk about ages. The killer in Virginia Tech was 23. The killer who shot up a church in Sutherland Springs, who was allowed because they just messed up the paperwork that they later admitted to purchase his firearm, was 26. The killer in El Paso, and these are all within the past few years. Killer in El Paso was 21. The killer at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, he was 29. The killer in Thousand Oaks killer was 28. The killers in San Bernardino were 29 and 28. The killer in Pittsburgh was 46. The Fort Hood killer was 51. I mean, I can go on. In fact, few are actually carried out by younger people. Few mass casualty incidents. And because people are stupid, I'll spell it out, all of them are sad and tragic. But few are actually carried out by younger people. Just as the fewest homicides are carried out by rifles. Another important fact, as we talk about age, I see a lot of, and this kind of dovetails in with this topic of reducing age of purchase or increasing age of purchase from 18 to whatever arbitrary number. I see this constantly thrown out by the Moms Demand people and the Everytown people and the Giffords people and the, so on and so forth. They love to say things like firearms are the leading cause of death for American children. The CDC, which, as you know, hid their previous studies, and I've linked those. If you get my newsletter at Substack, you already have all this information and you've read it. The CDC hid multiple surveys, multiple studies that they carried out over the years because it disputed their stance on defensive gun usage, because defensive gun usage is like 4 times greater than criminal usage, and they didn't want to publicize that. So they tried to do, and this is where, and you need to watch out for this. This is the narrative that they come out with, that the majority of kids, our nation's kids, are dying because of guns. Actually, still, cars are the worst. I just actually looked at the latest data for that on a number of, and I'm going to have a separate post about this coming out later today. But this was a couple of different, I was going state by state. In a number of different states, like Pennsylvania. This was Philadelphia Health Agency. New Jersey. I was looking at a number of different states. Automobiles are still number one. Here's where it gets tricky. They try to tell you that, kids are dying all over the United States because of firearms, and they define children all the way up until age 19. Now, when you break it down and you look at the data that the CDC gives you, and you look at the crime trends with FBI UCRs, the Uniform Crime Reports that tabulates crime, and it looks at demo, it looks at weapon, it looks at age, it looks at area. The majority, like the vast majority, pretty much all of them, are drug and gang violence. And they're all older. But the way that they present this is they try to scare you into thinking that school shootings are happening all the time. Which is why they like to say, oh, there's been, 27, whatever school shootings. The number that they're getting, it's the Bloomberg Everytown group, the group that once memorialized one of the Boston bombers as a victim of quote unquote gun violence. No joke. They're including anything that happens around the 1,000-foot perimeter near a school. Because remember, the Gun-Free School Zones Act lists that it specifically states that guns are banned 1,000 feet from, the around the perimeter of a school. So what Everytown does is any time a crime takes place around a school, that is counted as a school shooting. It could be, and I have in my first book, I think it's my second chapter, I have an entire chapter on this. They included drug deals that were like 4 blocks away from a school that went wrong. There was a shooting in an apartment complex that was across a 4-lane road from a school. They included that as a school. These are legitimate examples. They included those things as school shootings. So they try to inflate the number of school shootings. Then they purposefully skew because they know that you're not going to go and look at all this hard data. They don't think that you have the time to sit, as I have done night after night, and look at raw data and look at the data the CDC gives and look at the corresponding data from FBI and look and compare different areas taken from the same time, and also look at the number of crimes that are attributed to gang and drug violence. They know because you've got dinner to make. You've got kids to pick up. You've got a job. You have a life. You have things that you have to do. So they are playing on that as a way to lie to you, to scare you into giving up your rights. Age, evil doesn't have one, doesn't have an age. Evil doesn't have a sex, a creed, a religion, a gender, an age, nothing. Evil is evil, which is why it's unpredictable. And it's why you have to be well prepared. And understand this. That doesn't mean to be paranoid. It just means to be prepared. And their fear-mongering isn't going to do anything to solve the problem. Do you know how many fatalities were actually attributed to, and by the way, the number that they're giving out for these, for the fatalities for kids, 3/4 of those are suicides. The rest are drugs and gang violence. But they refuse to have conversations about mental health. They refuse to have conversations about the breakdown of the family or why people are turning to drugs and gangs. They refuse to have conversations about hardening of the schools. These people aren't serious about solving anything. I don't take them seriously. I don't treat them with any courtesy because they deserve none.